I'm going to record that.
What?
Right there.
Oh, I don't think that's it.
Don't be saying a whole lot.
No.
Anyways, he about a week I had to come home. 2 weeks after that, Dwayne, the doctor that saved my life took his own life.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks after that, Bobby Jackson attacked me, and I still had 64 staples up and down my belly, where the doctor basically opened me up, and took all my intestines out and set them over here in a bucket, and then went in there and found my spleen where it busted that spleen, and he removed the spleen. While I was in there, he removed my appendix, and then he put all the guts back up in me, and they took staples about that wide, and I had 64 staples up and down, holding both pieces of skin together, right? Yeah. JW was in the living room. Me and the old man, we was already at one another's throats because it was a spiritual warfare going on between me and him. And I had heard of a show, kind of like Ripley's Believe It or Not. And at the time, I was hurting for cash. That was offering some money. And I thought, well, heck, this is a good thing for me to do, because it's not only going to be telling people about the miracle that happened, that should have cut me in half, but it's going to allow me to have some money. Well, I'd done already contacted them, and then they were supposed to contact me, and they did. They called. But at the time, I was sitting in Miss Aldale's house. You've been in there, sitting at the table. He was over on the other side of the table, and he was the one closest to the phone, so he answered the phone. Whenever he found out what was happening, he ripped the freaking phone completely off the wall and jumped from Miss Aldale's kitchen in the air like a freaking witch and landed on top of me. By the time he got to me, I had done already went down, because I knowed he was heading towards this right here.
Mm-hmm.
I knowed he was fixing to split me open, because he didn't want me to glorify God in the miracle. And if it wasn't for JW that drug him off of me, you remember JW that drank all the time?
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for him, he could have very well killed me. He was up on top of my head, beating the hell out of the back of my head, and beating the hell out of the back of my neck and stuff. But I was protecting this part, because I know that this part was still wounded.
Mm.
Well, that morning I woke up and I walked all the way to Kenton, and this is where my life changed. I walked to my grandmother's house, Lucille Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up the phone, I call the White House, and I tell them who I am, give them my social security number, my telephone number, my age, who I am, and told them that I was going to be the one to meet the Antichrist, and before the poison arrow struck the flesh of my skin, I was going to vanish and disappear. That's whenever Gable was going to blow the trumpet, the dead in Christ was going to rise, and we was going to be transfigurated from mortal to immortal in the twinkling of an eye. All of us, not just me, but all of us. That's basically whenever the second coming was going to happen. Hung the phone up, very politely, started walking again, walked back to Kenton, and I walked to Kenton primarily to report that my life was in danger. Because if somebody attacks you and you're a patient, unless I had an axe in my hand, or a gun in my hand, or a butcher knife in my hand, he had no business in attacking me like that. But you know how he was. Huh? He was a freaking idiot whenever it come to him being, he should have went to anger management.
Bad.
Big time bad. And he should have taken some drugs. I don't know if it's Valium, smoking weed, I don't know what it was, but something need to settle his ass down, because the least little thing that would disrupt his life, he would just go off he'd just go off the deep end, wouldn't he?
I seen him swing that big old handle or something at you in the back of a one time or 2 ton or something. You ducked, he hit that wall, and that something broke all to pieces. Remember that?
Yeah. And there was a time that he swung a 12-pound beater at Danny, and Danny ducked over at Sidonia, at that old store that Marvin Sis used to have. And hell, the damn, he had so much momentum in behind it, it not only went through one side of the center block, but hell, it went plumb through the wall. Now, you know good well, something like that hits you, it's going to hurt.
It's going to kill you.
I don't know if it's going to kill you or not, but it's going to hurt. It's going to break ribs. It's going to break bones. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just that way. And I went to Don Curry, of all people, that married Enloe Robinson's daughter, Kay. And you know, that was another one. We was talking about Bill this morning, about him being a bit unusual towards him sleeping in caskets and stuff, and leaving on his headstone that loved by few and hated by many. Bill Warren. But that girl that Donald,
Okay.
Kay, which would be Harold Robertson's sister, somebody had died, and I think it was her mother that died, and she was another one that couldn't get over the death. She was going down there at Alamo Cemetery and trying to raise the dead.
Hell.
Yes, but if you think about it, we've had some real weirdos down there, Dwayne, like T.C. Sweat.
Harold Rose was in trouble too, thinking that he was part of killing that girl too.
Well, that too, but like T.C. Sweat that got shot, that they claimed that he killed himself. He didn't kill himself.
I think Lord had done it.
It was either her or one of them boys done it. But once more, he was another vicious, brutal person to his family. Oh yeah, he was very hostile, and it just don't make sense for somebody that's been in a grave for a year, for somebody to want the grave to be opened up so that they can get the bullet out of his skull so she can wear it on her neck for a necklace. Now, is that not weird? But Bobby Jackson, whenever I told him what was going on about him attacking me, they had a town hall meeting in Kenton. Yeah. It was Damian Cross, Don Curry, another guy with a patch, Paul Hughes. He was a veteran guy, and about 4 or 5 others, Mom and Dad and me. We was all sitting around this big table. And when it was all said and done with, Dwayne, you know what they said? They said, you, looking at me, got a problem. You are going to go get evaluated down in Bolivar, and if you don't go voluntarily, we are going to force you to go. Basically patting Bobby Jackson on the back of the back and telling him what kind of good job that he done. And you know as well as I do, if anybody that was cruel to his family and needed to be analyzed,
hell, to everybody.
The whole freaking neighborhood down there knew it.
At times.
The whole freaking neighborhood down there knew it. Ed White, that lived right in behind us, it also had the store, him and Cheryl. And I asked Cheryl one time, I said, Cheryl, why did y'all allow for that to go on, knowing good and well that Bobby was the way that he was? Well, Dennis, we was always taught not to intervene in another man's affairs. And then whenever I said something about that, she goes, well, I wouldn't go get my head knocked off. Well, the thing about it is, you can pick up the phone and be anonymous. You don't have to tell people who you are. Call the sheriff's department or call the child abuse services, because I guarantee you there never was a truant officer down there at our house. Never was a truant officer down there. So anyways, whenever they took me to Bolivar, Dad goes down there and starts dictating to these people. Well, this is what I think. I think my son is this, and this. And I seen this thing on TV, on Donahue's show, pertaining to lithium. And man, that gave them freaking people an angle to go at. And from then on is the way that they tried to go with me. Towards somebody that needed to be on lithium. And basically what it is, it's bipolar. You know what bipolar means? It means that you got mood swings. You're either real far to the right or real far to the left. Well, to a certain degree, we all got mood swings. Did you know that? None of us is the same all the time. And besides that, they have proven that 99.9% of us every day reaches a point of temporary insanity, even if it's only for a few seconds. And how many times have you laid something down and forgot where it was, and hell, it was in your hand? You know what I'm saying? Dad used to do it all the time. Where's that 966 inch? Where's that 96? And hell, it'd be in his hand. You know what I'm saying? He done it all the time.
Damn.
Yeah, all the time. But once he got on that binge about lithium, basically that's the way that they went. And like you said, and like I said, if anybody needed to be psychoanalyzed, it should have been Bobby. And they should have set him down in the Veterans Administration pertaining to post-traumatic stress disorder, because that's what them guys come back with. I mean, he basically he had guilt syndrome because the infantry that he was with, the 2nd Infantry up in Washington State that he trained in, they was on the way to the Battle of the Bulge, and they know that it was bad. It was bad. Of course, the life expectancy of somebody being dropped off in a freaking a rice paddy over there at Vietnam War, your life expectancy wasn't but about 7 minutes.
Hmm.
In other words, if you lived over 7 minutes, you was doing real good.
Hmm.
That's war. That's real war.
Hmm.
And them guys was going over there pertaining to the Battle of Bulge, and just so happens he had a kidney infection come up, so it delayed it. But he found out later, whenever he did become active, that everybody that he trained with, which was about 250 men, all dead. All dead.
Mm.
And you start wondering, how come I'm still living and they're all dead?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, if he would have died, I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you right now. You know it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just leads on down to one thing to another. But he got to talking about that lithium. Well, after a certain amount of time went by, and I'd done already put the horses in the back of my truck, and me and my son Nicholas had done already went to New York, Washington, D.C. on 3 different, basically, spiritual crusades in issuing out material towards telling people about the end time. It just got to him to the point that he just couldn't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I go, let me ask you a question. I go, your oldest son used alcohol for an escape and for a savior because of your brutality and your behavior. Because it was the only way that he could basically forget about everything that was going on. He'd drive back and forth. Danny drive to Kincaid and pick up a 6-pack on the way back. He'd be drunker than a Hooter's brow because he knowed what he was fixing to have to walk off into. You know what I'm saying? That type of environment. But Danny's savior turned out to be his demise because he got allergic to all the hops in the beer, and he'd have big swells and sores and stuff come up on him, and he would drink the beer to dull the pain, but then whenever he'd wake up, it'd be that much more worse. So it was just an endless cycle with him. But I asked him one day, I said, you're saying that I'm infatuated on the Bible, that I'm Bible crazy. Of course, he took his own mother and grabbed her by the tonsils and slammed her up against the wall before she ever went to the nursing home and said, you're Bible crazy, you're Bible crazy, you're Bible crazy. Yes, Bob did. Yes, he was, I'm telling you, he become Antichrist. They're a little bit in the middle, not necessarily towards the end, but in the middle. He got to the point that if somebody even talked to him about God, he got upset about it. But it was a radical, because I asked him, I said, if you had to make a choice of obsessions, wouldn't you rather have somebody that's obsessed with the Bible than somebody that's obsessed with the bottle?
Really?
And he looked at me and he said, no. I go, what? He goes, they're equal. And in his mind, that's the way he thought. And you can be too religious. You can be too spiritually religious and no earthly good. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
You're too spiritually religious to the point that you're no earthly good.
Yeah.
Because if all you want to talk about is God and Jesus Christ and God and Jesus Christ, eventually you're going to start running a bunch of people off unless they have the same anointing in their life as you do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for somebody to say, and he used to always bring up this out of the Bible. You know, the devil's good about taking things out of the Bible and taking it out of context. And he'd say, well, son, don't the Bible tell you to honor thy father and thy mother? Honor thy father and mother? Because whenever I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I didn't have nothing else to say other than, yeah, Daddy.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, the Bible does say that. But then I questioned him one time. I said, if you was a satanic worshiper and you worship the devil openly, and you ordered for me to go out in that barnyard and kill a goat and drink its blood because you're my parent, because you're my dad, am I supposed to obey you? Well, yeah. See, the concept was completely gone in his mind towards not realizing that the parents are supposed to be honorable for the children, to honor thy parents the way that God intended for that relationship to be. God didn't intend for a child to honor the devil or honor somebody that's following after the devil. You know that. You know that. He was that far out in left field, man.
I know how he was.
But sometimes he was just as good as gold, man. Yeah. Sometimes he was just as good as gold. I know that y'all really helped. Whenever it would snow, he'd clean the roads out and didn't ask nobody for a penny.
Pick up all the kids.
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, he treated the public a whole lot different than he treated
Oh, yeah.
us.
Hell yeah. I know.
And you know
I've been
that.
over a bunch of times where he'd be going off.
Uh-huh.
And I'd have to stay there and sand too. By God, you gonna come see him? You gonna work your fucking ass off too? And I'd do it. Remember?
Well, you know, back in this era, in this part of the neck of the woods,
Hell yeah.
it was considered decent and proper that if you was over at Bobby's house and you done something wrong along with me and you deserved ass whipping, he'd tear into both of us.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Hell
vice
yeah.
versa.
Hell
If I
yeah.
was over there at Gary's house and I'd done something wrong, me and you got in trouble,
Yeah.
it was okay for Gary to jump on both of us.
That's right.
To clean both of our freaking plows.
Yeah.
That's the way they handled things back then.
Yeah.
But he took it a little too far, like some of the other ones around there. You know, Harold, speaking about Harold and that girl,
I ain't seen him in so long.
I think he goes to church over at Victory Baptist Church over at Twin Saddle and Sharon. But one time, him and Ricky Simmons got into it. Him and Ricky Simmons was kin, just about everybody down there was kin anyway. But I don't know what he done to make Harold so mad. But Ricky wound up putting him in a corner crib over there at JM's and lit the damn thing on fire.
Hell.
Boy, you talk about a butt whipping. Yes, sir. Once JM found out about all that and put the fire out, because Ricky was in there screaming and hollering, he was fixing to die. But I tell you something else you probably don't know.
Ricky Simmons is another one that's just a fucking idiot.
Well, listen to this. Mama and us four boys. Of course, David wasn't really old enough to respond clear enough, but we would talk about Bobby's blue eyes turning blood red whenever he would lose his cool, and we swore and be damned that he was possessed. He had a demon to get that man.
I remember Betty would talk to him sometimes.
And we would sit around contemplating towards who was going to be the trigger man and go in there while he was asleep, take a double barrel shotgun and put to his damn head and blow his head off while he was sleeping. That's how bad it had gotten in the house. But this is my point. After we left, spirits are territorial. And you gotta halfway put your mind around this. Why would have the Wiccans planted a castle less than a quarter of a mile from basically where we was raised up at? It's got to do with the crosses, the longitude, the latitude. It's got to do with the 33rd parallel, 32nd parallel, 31st parallel. I'm telling you, that's how they do, because they're territorial. These spirits are territorial. I don't know. We lost the farm. Dad declared bankruptcy. I think it was in 83, 84, something like that. Anyways, whoever had the house over there rented it out to this old man, had 2 kids.
I forgot about that.
And he thought that he was going to treat his kids the same way that Bobby Jackson treated us. And he got to mistreating them. He got to, I don't know who he was. He got to mistreating them damn kids. And you know what them kids done? Same thing while
They
Harold.
burned him down, didn't they?
Yes,
Burned
sir.
the place down.
Burnt the place down with him in it.
Yeah, that's right.
And they acted stupid at first and acted like that it was an accident of some sort. I wouldn't want that on my conscience, would you? Even if it was somebody that actually deserved that, I wouldn't want to be the trigger man in doing something like that. But I guess about a month or two went by and they was up there at White City and they got to bragging about it, got to talking about it.
Oh, shit.
And they told the wrong freaking person. And next thing you know, they wound up with a TBI and they're still in jail to this day for killing that old man. And Mama used to always tell us, boys, if y'all do that, you'll never get away with it. They think too much of Bob around here because he's a World War II hero. And I'm telling you right now, if y'all kill him, we won't never get away with it. But you know what? I really and truly think that Otis Keith was going to kill him, especially whenever the old man went off on Douglas and Danny, because they was late getting in the house, about maybe an hour or a half hour. And he went in the back and picked up a black round extension cord and beat both of them like beating a damn horse, to the point that basically they had to stay in-housed in the house. This was probably before you ever come down here and got associated with our lives.
I don't know. Me and Douglas are pretty good friends.
That was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was probably along about 1970. That was way on back there.
Yeah, that was before me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it was, now Douglas probably told you about it.
Yeah.
About him getting whipped like a horse with a damn black round extension cord. It put whips all over him because he went freaking mad, and then had to house him up inside the house for a week for all the wounds to heal up. But from then on, Douglas Keith hated him. Danny already hated him. Danny despised him because Danny had already got a taste of the big life up there in Chicago. Danny was already a teenager before we moved down here in 1966, and he hated it down here. Absolutely hated it. Now, he adapted to some degree. You know, he had 4 or 5 friends, Ray White, Reuben Baker, Roger Hill. They was all good friends, but you know what? It was Bobby that run them off. It was Bobby that run them screaming and hollering and getting mad and making people work and doing what he was doing. He was just a damn slave driver whenever it comes to shit like that. And he got to the point that he thought that he could treat others like he treat his own. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Harold Roberts got in his face one day and said, "Let me tell you something, Bobby. I'm not your son. I'll run you over with this damn tractor." Because Dad had a bunch of people working for him down there. I mean, we'd haul hay every year, you know what I'm saying? Fat Boy, Sweat. Sweats was helping him. Probably Ricky Simmons, David Nelson at one time helped us. I mean, there was a bunch of us down there. And do you remember the big pond down there? You remember one time Douglas got out there with
It's a good pond, too.
Yeah, remember one time Douglas got out there with a boat, and I don't know who was driving it. It may have been you, going around and around in circles in that freaking pond. And then we'd get out there in the wintertime whenever it'd freeze, and get out there and raise cane. And one time Danny had a car that he cut in half, and we put that out there on the daggum ice. Had them big old slingshots. Remember we'd slingshot freaking wet corn cobs at one another, and them freaking corn cobs would freaking hurt once they slammed upside your face. You know it. We done some crazy stuff.
We was down in Hotham one time. You had a bottle of Mountain Dew, fixing to take a drink of it, and Danny throwed a rock and knocked that bottle out of your hand. You remember that?
Yes, sir. And he had to have been at least a football field away, didn't he? Huh? It was a lucky shot, or either that or he was just a good thrower. I don't know.
It?
But yeah, he knocked the bottom out of that Mountain Dew, and by the time I got it up to my lips, it was empty. It was empty.
I remember it.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was some crazy stuff. But yeah, Dad got on that freaking kick, man. Well, I got one son on the Bible. I got another one on the bottle. I got one son on the bottle, one on the Bible. And that's whenever I confronted him. I said, well, which is worse, Dad? Which is worse? The one on the bottle or the one on the Bible? They're both equal. And I tried to tell him, it's just like looking
Betty
at...
left him
I
one time,
tried to tell him that it's just like looking... Huh?
Betty left him one time, I remember.
She divorced him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she divorced. And she didn't do that until David got old enough.
But they got back together, though, didn't they?
Later, about 5 years later.
Yeah.
Out of desperateness, probably on both sides' behalf. But basically, whenever I got big enough to start working on my own, whenever she went down to Dresden and got me a work permit, that's whenever she started saying, you know what, it's time for me to go because I can take care of one kid, to where she was faced before she had to take care of 4. And of course, back then, women was looked down upon if they divorced her husband. Even if the husband was cruel to the woman or cruel to the children, they was looked down upon. Did you know that Miss Aldale, my grandmother, she never drove? You know why she never drove? Because whenever she was growing up in that era, it was improper for a woman to drive a buggy or to drive an automobile. And she wanted to always
they wasn't even supposed to speak in church, I don't think.
No. No, there was lots of things that was quirky about them back then. And of course, I relate a lot of this around here. Nathan Bedrick Forrest, that was one of the Southerners' best lieutenants, that basically started Ku Klux Klan in Tennessee, that basically planted that seed of division in this area of hanging blacks and hating blacks. But the hatefulness.
Let's go back in here, Jim.
The hatefulness was already here whenever the Night Riders come into play over here at Real Foot. Do you remember hearing about that? You don't know about that?
I don't remember it. I don't remember
Really?
much of nothing.
They got all
Juby.
kinds of articles about it. It was the governor of the state of Tennessee that stopped it, man.
Hell.
Because they had the right concept towards going to somebody's house that wasn't working or mistreating their family, and they'd come and give them one visit only, and they'd tell them, hey, if we have to come back the second time,
Yeah.
you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
Because they would beat them, they would torture them, they'd do all kinds of stuff to them. But they maintained some sort of law and order, you know what I'm saying? But they got to the point that it become kind of brutal, really. I mean, it was
They didn't make it to Bobby, did
it was like a bunch of outlaws out
They
here
didn't make
doing
it
what
to
they
Bobby,
wanted to
did
do.
they?
It's called vigilante justice. It got to the point that they was basically being their own law.
Hell.
Yeah. Vigilante justice, going around torturing men and doing things like that. They got to where they was liking it.
Yeah.
And the governor of the state of Tennessee found out about it, son. And that was way back. You're talking about back in Davy Crockett era.
Damn. Come on.
Uh-huh.
Let's walk back out here.
Where are we going?
I'm going back out here. Come on.
Why?
Because I'm going to do that black on that car while I'm talking to you. I got to try. Man, I'm getting old, Judy. I got to do all I can do when I can do it. Because I don't get to do much, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to spray that black on there, and then that's all I'm going to do.
But hey, well, let me say one more thing, because I'm still, hey, I want to ask you one other thing while we're still doing this.
Well, I got $500 for that trailer. It's worth that, wasn't it? It's
Absolutely.
got a dovetail.
Absolutely.
Never pulled it.
I went
I need
down
some
here,
tires.
where the plaza used to be, where the old
What can I get me a cigarette? What plaza, Juby?
over here by the Hearth restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
That had that nightclub over there.
Yeah.
Used to be a bowling alley right there.
Yeah.
Used to be a bowling alley right there.
The odds or something like that, remember?
Right.
Wasn't it the odds?
Yeah.
The disco place, remember?
Yeah.
Disco, yeah.
Yeah. Go get your cigarette and come back.
Yeah, but anyway, what?
Go and get your cigarette and come on back.
All right. Hey, you think that'll look good, though, Jimmy? It'll be all right, won't it?
It'll be perfect.
I hope so. I think I can make this car look good. I hope. Hard as I'm working on it, it better look good, you know it? It will.
But there was a bunch of Mexicans on top of the building making all kinds of freaking racket, and like me, I wanted to find out what was going on. So I went over there where that nightclub was. Come to find out, that nightclub hadn't been a nightclub for the past 4 or 5 years. Come to find out, during the time that I had left, and me and you, we done our little thing. You was up in Chicago, and I was working in Milan, and then Jackson, and in Lexington. They had several freaking brawls in that freaking club, shootings and killings.
Ain't that something?
And one time they were shooting at the law over there.
Hell.
Yeah, they got rootless. They got rootless, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So whenever it finally shut down, it was probably good riddance. Whenever it come to the city, good riddance. Glad it shut down.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that bought it recently,
It's empty now, ain't it?
the guy that bought it recently also bought the bowling alley. But the one right there in the middle, which is the pawn shop, he can't get that old boy to let loose just yet.
Yeah.
But he's got the building that used to be the nightclub and the other building on the far end. And of course, the Taylor guy owns that other building that's got all that antiques, cars and stuff in there.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked in there?
No.
Oh, he's got some.
No shit.
He's got some real classics in there. Yeah, but he don't want people to know about it.
Yeah.
He's basically Buford, not Buford Pulser. I almost said Buford Pulser. Who was the guy that run the bus? Big guy.
I don't even know. What bus?
Taylor, James Taylor, that run for sheriff.
Oh, I don't know. But anyway, what about that building?
The building, he had a bunch of Mexicans up there putting top on it because all the top done already got bad.
Yeah.
And while I was in there, I seen a couple old rims in there that I wanted, and I made an agreement towards going and buying them, and I got them at the house. The
Okay.
big old metal rims like they used to put on buggies and stuff.
Oh, no shit.
Antiques.
You got them, huh?
Yeah.
Hell
Because that building meant a lot to me, because that was the building that me, you, and Dayton Earl went into, and you say it, you don't remember it.
I kind of do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured you did.
Yeah.
Because we was fixing to get into a major brawl, man.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah.
And we ain't talking about just not just with fist to fist. We were talking about freaking all kinds of artillery fixing to come out. You know what I'm saying? Because back then we was packing.
I know.
Everybody packing back then.
I know it.
And I'm sure they was too, because a week before that was the guy that I met down there at Tony's Pizza that had the long knife, that come to find out, he gained a reputation in town towards being called the Magic Man. And
Hey.
the reason why I know this is because I bumped into the owner that used to own Tony's Pizza, that's no longer in Martin, Tennessee, but now he owns a restaurant in McKenzie.
Hell.
Yeah. And me and him sat down. He was from Italy or something, Spain or Italy or somewhere up in there. And he said, yeah, I remember him. He said, that was the Magic Man. He had powers.
Hell.
That was the person that we met along with his 12 other disciples that night that put that cloth in my pocket. And that was a satanic cloth, a black cloth that had the moose head star
You kept saying, what
with the golden circle
yeah.
in it, with the golden circle in it, that something just irritated me to death. And I'm telling you, this is probably going to go way over your head to the point you ain't going to believe this. But me and my wife went through a bad ordeal after I was with her for about 7 years. And then we started associating ourselves with United Pentecostal people down in Jackson, Tennessee, at the Lighthouse Pentecostal Church, in which a tornado hit it and blowed it all to pieces.
Yeah.
Of course, they had to move and built another building. They're still down there. But this Brother Brown guy, he led us, he counseled with us. We'd go in there and he'd talk to us and counsel with us. And then whenever we got real serious about wanting to hook back up, oh no, I can't do that. You can't marry us?
Hell.
After you counseled with us for 6 months, you ain't gonna marry us?
Really?
Well, you've already both of you already been married. Well, yeah, so
Really?
we're just gonna retie the knot again.
Really?
Well, I ain't gonna marry you.
Hell.
So we wound up going to the Justice of the Peace down at Jackson and getting married again twice.
Yeah.
Okay? While we was going to church for about a year, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, trying to fit in, they had testimony service. People standing up, glorifying God, telling everybody what God had brought them through and how God delivered them from drugs and how God healed them from this and healed them from that. And I decided I was going to stand up and give my testimony.
Right.
Well, the preacher's son was sitting on the podium at the time with the preacher and 2 or 3 other ones. And as soon as I got through with my testimony, he stands up and goes, "That's a lie!"
He did.
And we're talking about a
Right
big
there in
freaking,
church.
we're talking about a big auditorium.
No shit.
Yes, we're talking about an auditorium that'll probably hold freaking 500 people if
That's
it was
a lie,
full.
Huh?
Yes.
What kind of place was that?
Pentecostal.
Yeah. I never heard of them doing
And
that.
the primary reason why that I went to the Pentecostal is because they're supposed to be the most spiritual, right?
I know it, man. I went to one with
Healing.
Linda Bryan all the time in Kenton over there, and I
Yeah.
got more out of that church than I did any
Right,
church.
right.
I really did.
And it just depends
I
on
liked it.
who you're with. But come to find out, Richard, the one that told me that I was lying about my testimony, wound up going to California, and now he's holding a church down in San Diego somewhere with
Hey.
a bunch of gays.
Hell.
And his dad, after that event happened, which would have been in 2005, shortly after 9/11, I think it was 202 when
That's a
we got
lie.
remarried, and then we
I bet you felt that tall.
I did.
I bet.
My wife set me down like a red-haired stepchild the next day. She said, whatever you do, if you start mentioning this again about your religion and your involvement with these 13 guys and these 2 hands that miraculously come out of heaven and you almost died, she said, I'll leave you flat-footed.
Really?
And you know what? She did.
Although it's the truth.
Although it's the truth. And it was my testimony.
Damn, that's
And
crazy, ain't it?
I was telling it in the glory of God
Yeah.
towards uplifting
Yeah.
Christ rather than mocking Christ or tearing Christ down.
It's crazy, ain't it?
Yes. Yes, but
That
basically,
make me think about her, you know? What the hell?
well, yeah. I mean, my philosophy whenever I hooked back up with her was, well, why get out here and get associated with somebody else's life whenever you don't know how dirty the water is? I already know how dirty the water is with her.
Yeah.
That was my philosophy. But I just thought I knowed how dirty
Yeah.
the water was.
Damn.
Yeah, the water was more dirtier than what I thought.
It's crazy, ain't it?
She was cheating on me on the first
Really?
relationship and cheating on me on the second
Hey.
relationship.
She's
and
good
because
looking too, you know?
and because of because of it, she walked out of my life. And as far as I'm concerned, from then on in 2005, they was hunting me, man. You heard Donald Trump talk about a witch hunt?
Yeah.
They was on a witch hunt.
You think?
Yes, sir. Whenever you're passing out Bible material to somebody in Pickles, a teller in Martin, and you tell him as you're passing the material out that there was going to be an explosion of controversy in my life, and I'm liable to wind
man.
and I'm liable to wind up on
That's
Channel
the
6
words. I
News.
keep trying to think about with that.
Hey, liable to
Yeah.
wind up on the Channel 6 News, and the following next day, the Martin PD
I know it.
comes all the way to freaking Carroll County, Huntington, where I was working at the time, and walks up to me while I got Bondo dust on me from head to toe and says, "Are you Dennis Jackson?" Well, yeah. Turn
Yeah.
around, you're under arrest. For
Ain't
what?
that something?
For what? Falsifying files.
Damn.
Falsifying files? That sounds
you
like
didn't
something
have
with
no
the Internal
files.
Revenue Service
No
or something.
shit.
What are you doing down here messing with me? Falsifying files.
No
Well, come
shit.
to
What
find
kind of
out.
files? Hell.
Come to find out.
That's crazy. Ain't
Come
it?
to find out, I hired an attorney in Huntington by the name of Benjamin Dempsey, and come to find out, according to their state statute, falsifying files means
Fire or something.
means starting a panic, saying something that ain't real, like being in a theater and crying fire, 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 or pulling down a fire alarm.
Ain't that
Thing
crazy?
about it is, I wasn't in a damn
No
theater.
shit.
I didn't pull down a fire
You was
alarm.
handing out
I was
Bible
passing out
stuff.
material, and whenever they come and got
like you're
me,
supposed to really do.
whenever they come
Supposed
and
to
got
spread
me,
the word.
yes, sir. Whenever
Yeah.
they come and got me, it was David
Yes.
Moore. That was the ex-chief now. David Moore. That was the police that I've actually in frat parties gotten high with him before. Him and his wife Lisa.
Hell.
There a lot of them that go to church or works up there at the courthouse. I used to freaking party with or go to
Yeah.
Cadillacs with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And basically, it was him that basically hoodooed me
you know
about
about
all
half
that.
of our people that's in Congress is felons. Did you know that?
I don't doubt it.
Check it out. They're felons, ex-felons. And how could that be?
It's
In Congress.
It's because they know the right people,
Yeah.
and they can get that stuff expunged.
They've all most
They
of
can get
half
it
of them's
expunged.
been felons.
They can get it expunged. But anyways,
I can't get mine
they
expunged, so I can
interrogated me,
live
right?
where I
There's
could
like
hunt.
there's like 7 officers along with David Moore, questioned me. Juby, what did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? And there was only one cop out of all of them that said, well, man, he's been doing this for quite a while towards passing out this material, basically testifying in the name of the Lord.
Right.
He's been doing this for a while, and they shut him up real quick.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? And I explained to him. I said, I didn't have no harmful intent and nothing towards doing that. But do you think that deterred them? Not one bit. They went ahead and locked my ass up, put me on a $50,000 bond,
Damn.
like I was some sort of rootless guy.
No shit.
And the next thing you know, I had to pay $5,000 to the guy that used to run the store down there,
Why?
Ronnie,
Yeah, why? Why?
for bond, just to get out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Ain't that crazy?
Then another sum of money for the attorney, and when it was all said and done with, I lost my wife, I lost my 5-acre mini farm, and lost my job, and they was dogging me.
Yeah.
So I left from here and went to Nashville, Tennessee.
Hell yeah.
Started working, and about that time, Katrina hit. Later that fall. Remember Katrina?
Oh, yeah, I worked at it about 2 years.
Okay. Well, whenever Katrina hit, about in January, I let things cool down a little bit. I basically took all my stuff and ditched my apartment that I was renting, and went down there and worked myself down there. And really, that was good education for me.
Yeah, I was down there for 2 years.
Yep. But man, they've been after me, Dwayne. Even whenever I come back this last time in 2014, from 2014 to 2017, up until David died, the freaking law down there was just basically letting us get railroaded to hell
Ain't that crazy?
back. And we was hiring attorneys and standing in front of Tommy Moore and the whole 9
And on your own
yards.
property.
Hiring attorneys, and sometimes that'd be as many as 5 or 6 cops down there, right where that corner is, right there, Miss Aldale.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be 5 or 6 cop cars down there, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month for 3 consecutive years.
Damn.
They was wearing vehicles out, man.
Damn, that's crazy, ain't it?
I guarantee it was costing $100 a cop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At least $100 a cop by the time you get through wearing out your tires and maintenance
Yeah.
on the vehicle
That's crazy,
and paying the cop to come down there. It was
Yeah.
costing $100 a pop, and it was all coming to us. We wasn't the one that was going and stirring up the trouble. The trouble was coming to us,
Ain't that crazy? Coming to your land.
coming to my land.
Damn. Ain't that something? These fucking law around here, man, are something. All
They
of them.
pick
They
and
are something.
choose.
Yo, big time, big time.
And what that they didn't realize
Big time.
is that I had a seed planted here in this area that went a whole lot deeper than just Bobby Jackson. Went a whole lot deeper than even his dad, Kelmer Jackson. My seed goes back into not only Jeff James Jackson, that used to work for the state of Tennessee, that run the Lim store in between Sidonia and Kenton over there, that basically was like a dutyator. He handled deeds and stuff like that, made sure that everything, because he was a merchant. I mean, he was a pharmacist. Back then, you didn't have to have pharmacist license. He could read.
Yeah.
He was a merchant. He was considered a pillar of the community. And his wife, that was half Cherokee, she was basically a midwife. And God only knows how many people that she brought into the world around here and didn't charge them a dime, not one dime.
Yeah.
We'll come to find out, some of that same branch of my tree branched out in another direction. And right now, I got a cousin in Union City, works for the TBI, by the name of Jeff Jackson.
I didn't know that was your cousin.
Yeah, by the name of Jeff
He's
Jackson.
one of them that busted me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever know Tommy Thomas? That was a prosecuting attorney up here in Weakley County?
No, I don't know.
Boy, he knowed all about me.
Yeah.
And what it was, whenever I come back here to this area, not only did they have a vendetta against me because of a mistake that I made that your dad helped get me out of up there in Martin
Hell.
over that gun deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, did you take that gun?
I did take the gun.
I didn't know you took it.
I was high. I was
Yeah.
messed up. I mean,
didn't know
I
you
just
took
got
it,
to, I
took
was
it.
still,
I thought that you traded for it. or
I
something.
still was recovering from that accident, falling off
Yeah,
that
I
building.
thought
I
you
was on
traded
all
for
kinds
that
of
gun.
freaking
You
drugs.
took it out of the car, huh?
Well, the car was just sitting there running with the window down.
Yeah, and you took it, huh?
I guess the cop thought with it being there at the cop station that it's secure.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, Tony Harrison stowed that cop car about the same time, and I wound up getting blamed for both of them.
Hell.
I didn't know nothing about what Tony was going to do with the cop car, and Tony didn't know nothing about what I was going to do with the gun.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, but they held that against me.
Hell.
I paid for that a million zillion
Damn,
times, man.
Crazy, ain't it?
And that was the only time that I ever tried to bump them. But I guarantee you, they're vindictive around here.
Oh, I know it.
They're very vindictive, and
And
they will.
most of them motherfuckers have done way worse than we've done.
Oh, what are you talking about?
Most all of them. The law, I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes.
Or they've
Still
turned,
doing
or
it.
they've
Still doing
turned
it.
their back
Yeah.
and allowed for stuff
Yeah.
to happen because
Still
I
doing
couldn't
it.
tell you
Still
the
doing crazy
I
shit.
couldn't tell you the amount of times whenever Gail and your dad was over there with all them cops inside the house, and God only knows how many freaking guns was in there. Probably over 100,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
even 200.
Hell yeah, trading and fucking shooting and shit. Yeah.
Everything in the world. And of course, if y'all got out here and got a
Excuse
speeding
me,
ticket,
man.
all it took was the good old American dollar bill to get you out.
Yeah. Hell
Because all of them was on the take.
Because I got a bunch of tickets, man.
All of them was on
Never
the
did
take.
lose my license.
All of them was on the
You
take.
remember? Hell, I
Yes.
used to outrun them cops every time
Yes.
I got a chance.
And-
Tried to get one after me.
Absolutely. And because we was from Hop In,
Yeah.
we had a bad reputation because Hop In had a bad reputation because there was a bunch of hoodlums that was raised up down in Hop In.
Yeah.
Burton Sipes,
Yeah.
Mike Willis, he was a hoodlum.
Yeah.
He was basically an outlaw.
Yeah.
Of course, look how his brother turned out, David.
Yeah.
But there was, Hop In had a bad reputation, and
Yeah.
because we was from Hop In, that put us in the same category.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a preacher talking about Jesus Christ of Nazareth being a Nazarene from a town called Nazarene. He was a Jew, but he was from the dark side of town. He was from the ghetto. And they noted, and that was probably one reason why that they never did accept Christ into their little circle, was because of where he come from. Now people would tell you, well, it don't matter where you were born or where you was raised up at, but I guarantee you some people take notice to that,
yeah, they
of
do.
where you was and how you got raised up, whether or not you're a southerner or you're a northerner, or whether or not
Guarantee
you
it.
was raised up
No
out
doubt.
west,
No
out in
doubt.
California or whatever. A lot of people judge you off of that stuff. Like a lot of people would judge you if your dad was a bad guy,
Yeah.
you're going to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
If your dad was a lawyer, then you're going to be a lawyer. If
Yeah.
your dad was a doctor, then you're probably a pretty good guy. You're going to be a doctor.
Yeah. That's right. You run with a drinker, you'll be drinking. You
Yeah.
run with a cusser, you'll be cussing.
Yeah, if your mother was a
I
whore,
taught
odds
my
are the
son-
daughters are going to be
Yeah,
whores.
Odds are. I used to tell Taylor that when he was raising up. You run with a drunk, you'll wind up being a drunk.
That's
You
it.
know, if
That's
you don't
it.
cuss, you start running with somebody cussing, you'll wind up
But
cussing.
but
that's the way it works.
but what it was, Tommy Thomas or Johnson, that's now taken Tommy Thomas's part towards public prosecutor. He basically is now running this district in this area. He Obion County and probably 3 or 4 counties, like a supervisor or whatever, superintendent or whatever. But they actually thought that they had them a trophy. That I was going to be a trophy pertaining to getting the bad guy because I'd went out west and I'd created a name for myself out there exposing the truth about the Oklahoma bombing. Well, Dwayne, think about this. Of course, I didn't go out there for this reason, but think about this. Because of the way that they was against me in this area, because you know as well as I do, I've been passing out material and putting out literature for years around here. If I never did go out west and basically create a name for myself, you think the big media would ever let me expand and grow to the point that people would have known who I was? No. No. Besides that, the people of Burn Dresden didn't realize that my great-great-grandfather worked for them at one time that helped establish the establishment right here. And since David died, believe it or not, everything has settled down. But until then, it was World War III down there. We was being agitated and aggravated for probably a dozen different families that was coming down there throwing eggs at us and cutting down shit and trying to burn shit and tear shit down. One time David had to pull out a gun and scare them off. There were 4 or 5 of them was out there doing stuff, just being mean, just being mischievous, just wanting to torment our lives.
And don't do nothing to them.
Hadn't done nothing.